of the first times I heard about you was with this unusual experiment done many years ago where you actually took people back in time. Now, rather than me trying to explain it for the viewers, why don't we run a little snippet from a BBC documentary, probably one of the most remarkable BBC documentaries ever produced. Take a look at this.
Nobody likes getting older, but we all know you can't turn back time. Well, what if you could? What if it were possible to simply think yourself young again? We've transformed this country house into an authentic 1970s time capsule. Inside, it might look like the set of a classic sitcom, but actually, it's a science lab. We're using it to restage an extraordinary experiment first carried out 30 years ago, which suggested that reliving your youth can make you young again. Going back in time will be 6 well-loved famous faces, all now in their 70s and 80s. Mr. Showbiz, Lionel Blair.
I'm still here, is all I can say.
Britain's favourite Nana, actress Liz Smith. And star of the silver screen, Sylvia Sims.
Oh, by the way, I've got no money, so I can't pay you today.
Umpiring legend Dickie Bird.
I've gone past it nearly every day.
Media mogul Derek Jameson.
Well, the trouble with today's papers, they're like comics, aren't they?
And the first ever on-screen BBC newsreader, Kenneth Kendall.
What? I recently discovered my friend Kenneth Kendall passed away. He was in his 90s, and I believe it had a good run. What?
We'll be getting them to work, rest and play.
I'm cheating.
You're cheating.
Drink, dance and dress.
It's a great shirt.
As though they're back in 1975.
You're a fascist.
I'm a communist, actually.
Communist.
To see if being old is all in the mind.
Lizzie, how old are you? Very soon. I will be 89. Oh, my goodness me!
Could just 1 week in this experiment make them fitter?
This will bring back so much to me.
Healthier?
You're at the Palladium.
Hooray!
And even younger.
When you're young at heart. Pumping the throat.
Or will it prove too much?
I can't do this.
I'm really bored with it now.
Wow. Ellen, you were the one creating the foundation for this very idea. What was the outcome?
Well, the outcome was very similar to the actual experiment. People were able to do all sorts of things that they thought they couldn't do. But, let me tell you the results that we actually found when we did this as an experiment. So the most important, I think, was bringing people back, having them live as if they're the younger selves. These are people in their 80s, 90. Their vision improved, their hearing improved, their memory improved, their strength improved, and they looked noticeably younger. And that I was thrilled with this because, again, this was without any medical intervention. And then I started to think about it afterwards. I mean, have you ever heard of an elder person vision improving, hearing improving? And so we've done several studies since that time. It's all to test, I don't know if I should get into this, so feel free to stop me, but this idea of mind-body unity. There's mind-body, these are just words. Let's put them back together. And if we put them back together, then wherever we put the mind, we're necessarily putting the body. So we have lots of studies now where we put the mind in unusual places and take the measurements from the body. And this counterclockwise study was the first instance of this, first test of this theory.
And the mind-body concept, people talk today about work-life balance. I know you think this is rubbish, right?
Well, it's not rubbish. The world starts off here, and then somebody improves it to here, and then people think, well, that's as good as it gets. And in my mind, almost always there's a better place. So if one is stressed and all they're doing is their work, surely to introduce some fun, some, as we're calling life, as opposed to work, is better than that. But to me, one should strive for work-life integration, so that people like your guests here, you and I, Martin, I'm sure, are virtually the same, whether we're at work or play. And I think that the pandemic, as one of the positive aspects of the pandemic, is that while people are Zooming from home, there are things that are just going to happen. The dog starts barking, the kids walk in, and that somehow makes one come to realize perhaps that they can be themselves and still accomplish what they're trying to accomplish. So right now, people start off believing work has to be stressful. And if work is awful in any way, then you need something to balance that. And, no matter what you're doing, whether you're working, eating a sandwich, doing a podcast, you can do it mindfully or mindlessly. And as I said before, the consequences of doing it mindfully are enormous. And so one can bring all of that to their work.
Now, I've got to, number one, I've got to quote you on this. Almost all of us are mindless almost all of the time. I love that, number one. Yeah. So I'm going to quote you on that. I love that. Number two, I measure every day. I have this daily question process I do every day. One of my questions is, what percent of the day was I mindful? Now, my average is probably 25 or 30%, which is probably mostly bullshit. It's probably actually much worse than that, but at least that's what score I give myself. And so I'm always looking for ways to, I coach people, so I'm always looking for ways to help people. I love your term, actively notice. Now, again, just all of our listeners, give us an idea of how just everybody like you, all of us can be actively noticing. A little tip or two would be helpful.
Yeah. No, so if you're living with somebody, notice 3-5 ways they're different at this moment than they were yesterday. You go outside, what's new, and very subtle differences. It doesn't matter if the difference is big, small, but as long as it's new for you, you then tune back in. And this active noticing is important because most of the time we think we know. And when we think we know, there's no reason to pay any attention. So I often start lectures with a very simple thing. And I just ask people, as I'll ask you, Martin, how much, Marsh, how much is 1 + 1?
Yeah, 2.
Yeah, no, not always though. Okay, now, that's right. If you are adding one pile of laundry to one pile of laundry, 1 + 1 is 1. You're adding one cloud plus one cloud, 1 + 1 is 1, and so on. And so to get people to say, wow, this thing that I knew better than anything else could be wrong. Perhaps everything else that I think is wrong some of the time. And this all came to me. I was at this horse event. This man asked me, could I watch his horse because he was going to get his horse a hot dog. A hot dog. Horses don't eat meat. He comes back with the hot dog and the horse ate it. And it was at that moment that I realized everything I think I knew could be wrong. Right? And so when you don't know, so you can either become mindful by this active noticing, or by recognizing, after as many examples as you individually need, that uncertainty is not the exception. Uncertainty is the rule. Everything is changing. Everything looks different from different perspectives. So you can't know. And when you approach a situation as if you don't know it, then you naturally tune in. So the act of noticing is to show you that you don't know, or you can start off knowing you don't know. In either case, that puts you in the present to take advantage of all sorts of opportunities to which you'd otherwise be blind.